mean, literally write out every step of my day, even down to, hey, you need to take a break, take a shower, get some water, that kind of stuff. I write every plan out for the day. And then I get some quiet time. That is probably one of my keys for the day. Um, when I used to work in corporate, I would have this thing where I didn't want anybody to like come in my office um, for at least an hour when I got there. And that hour was so that I could center myself, make sure I figured out my plan, and then make sure I had some time to really map out a plan of execution. And so I didn't like a lot of noise in the morning, didn't like a lot of interruption. And still to this day, I get up, I go over the map that I created, I get some quiet time to pray or just sit there and be still. And then I try not to do anything new until I've completed the task that I put out for the day. That is one of the biggest things for me, is I never try to start anything new. I never try to add anything new to my day. I don't try to deviate from my program. I almost feel offended if I don't get to knock out the things that I've mapped out for the day. Because you have what's called a lot of busy work, you know what I mean? And there are things that you can have in your plan that don't really move you forward. So I try to make sure I cut out any busy work. If it's not actually moving me forward in some kind of way, I don't try to add it in. I don't try to fluff it out. And then I'm not that person who just tells people I'm busy. I mean, literally, it's nonstop. And it comes from me praying for it. You know, I really did plan out what I wanted to do. And because I'm in the space now where I'm literally doing what I love for a living, the days just get full. And if you don't get some time to be quiet, if you don't get time to map it out, you'll literally just let your day be overtaken. When it comes to my daily routine, that's about it. But then the mentorship program, and then the mentorship that I've received, that's a huge part for me. Um, I have been the beneficiary of some relationships that I just can't explain. I always think about what I could have used as an excuse to not do anything or to fall into what they call the trap, or things that could have stopped me from getting to what people call success, right? And I don't deserve any of the relationships that I have. You know, I grew up with no male really in the household. I grew up with no positive role model in my neighborhood, really. All I had was people who took the time to stop by and say, hey, do this differently, or I see you doing this. And people start filling in everything that I thought I was going to miss out on. So I never had a reason to say, oh, I don't have a dad, or I don't have this relationship. You know, I'm a product of my environment. I was never able to use that as an excuse, because everything I needed, I credit God for sending every person, every relationship, every voice I needed to hear to kind of fill in those gaps. And then the enormity of the relationship. He could have sent anybody to do those things. The people to, teach me how to tie a tie. The people to teach me, hey, pull your pants up, carry your books this way, treat a woman like this. All those people were giants. So when I think about the relationships I got from all my mentors, and people say who their mentors are, but I mean the people who I really learned how to serve and work from. I have Ralph West, I have Langston Knowles, Franklin Wesley, and then Roy Melanson. I mean, these are my real mentors. Like, these are the people who I call, and they, will advise me on how to set life up. And when I think about who they are, there's no way I deserve to be in those kind of circles. I mean, I can't explain those kind of relationships. And to have them at that kind of reach, I mean, that's major for me, because I didn't ever think I deserved to be in the room with people like that. So I'm grateful for that. And then my 5 steps, or my 5 tips for people who would say, how do you attain success? the first thing would be to write out a plan. I think that is paramount to setting up a major lifestyle, is to write out a plan. Uh, Follow through with the plan. Follow through is everything. I tell people in my office or people who work with me, if you don't have follow through, you don't have anything. The third one would be to get some quiet time. If I use my model is Jesus. Before he did anything, before he made any next move, he got quiet. He got by himself, he prayed, and then he executed. So that would be my third one, is to get some quiet time. The fourth one came from Roy Melanson. When I was a kid, you remember this. You remember when we met over at MC. He took us in that room and he started talking about doing things that like make you tick. And then he looked me in the eye one day and he said, "Your answers for everything are yes, no, I don't know." And when he said that, I had to process it, but he was saying, you don't have to try to lie to people or try to figure it out just to make people, make yourself sound good. He said, your answer is yes, no, I don't know. So we get in this thing where people start trying to compliment you. Oh, you're so smart. How you do this, how you get here. But I actually listened to the people who told me and gave me advice. And that yes, no, I don't know, I think has been one of the keys to what people call success. Because when it comes down to it, I don't think I'm that intelligent. Or I know that there are people more qualified than I am to give advice on success. But what I do well is I can say yes, I can say no, I can say I don't know. Because if I don't know something, I do everything possible to figure it out. And I think that's what makes people intelligent. And then the last one is motivate yourself. It doesn't take a lot for me on the outside. I literally cheer myself on everything. I mean, nobody has to tell me, hey, good job. Nobody has to tell me, hey, do this. Nobody has to motivate me really. And that's not everybody's strength. But what I'm saying is for me, I motivate myself. That way I'm not dependent on somebody liking a status or somebody patting me on the back. I kind of clear that out as far as needing somebody to validate the work I'm doing. That way, when I get there and somebody say, hey, man, you did great job. Well, I've already told myself that, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's not to be offensive to people, but I don't need a lot of priming. I don't need a lot of pushing. I motivate myself and I talk to myself. And that, I think people sometimes, they'll think you're crazy, but everybody's not in your corner. Everybody, when you tell them your plan, is not looking out for you in the best way. You have a lot of people who are actually plotting against you. And my government teacher would always say that. He said, I don't disclose what religious affiliation or what political party I'm a part of. He said, because even though I'm teaching, you may be the enemy. He said, you may be plotting against me because I don't align with what you align with. And so I took that and I started saying, you cannot tell everybody everything. That's why I don't entertain a lot of conversations with newcomers or young guys. And when I say this, I don't mean it offensively. I don't entertain the fluff conversations that everybody wants to have now. Everybody in Houston has a business, but everybody in Houston isn't doing business. And so you can get caught up in all these models of I'm working, I'm grinding. Well, yeah, it looked like that on social media, but are you really working? And so that's why I try to cut out the fluff. Hey, I'm talking to myself. I love the fact that you've started the podcast for male empowerment because I know it's going to have substance to it. But I think people really need to sit down and figure out, are you really working? So in terms of tips, those are my 5. Talk to myself. I mean, I motivate myself. I say yes, no, I don't know. I get some quiet time. I map out my plan. and then I keep things to myself. That's really how I live.
That was man, that's some very powerful ones. Um, so let's dig a little bit, right? So you had a
Okay.
lot of influence like early on in your life, from male influence.
Mhm.
Were you kind of naturally conscious of that, that you didn't have male guidance in your life and you were seeking it out intentionally, or is it one of those things where they saw something in you and kind of fed into you, kind of saw a seed and planted it and knew you were going to become more than what you saw in yourself potentially?
A little bit of both. Um, I had a right before you and I met each other. The I had this little period in school where I was getting in trouble all the time. I don't think you and I ever talked about that before period, which is I went from being what everybody was called. Oh, he's a gentleman. He's such a gentleman. He's such a good student. This, that, the other. They were categorizing me like that, and then I had these 2 years where I was trying to fit in with everybody. I wanted to be the class clown. I wanted to be the funny guy or popular guy, all that. So I was acting out of my usual character, and it got me in a lot of trouble. Well, I had like 2 or 3 really rough years. Excuse me. I was always in trouble. I was always getting put out of school, that kind of stuff. And my family thought something was wrong with me because they like, well, why are you acting out like this? Well, it was just me wanting to fit in with everybody because I knew I wasn't a normal student. I wasn't the normal guy from the neighborhood. I didn't fit in just normally with everybody. So I had to make myself fit in some kind of way. And that was either to be funny or um, talking crazy to people, that kind of thing. And I say that because I started realizing something's out of line. Why am I always? I think the disappointment from my family is really what started me saying, "All right, it's time to change something." And then it went from that to me finally getting male teachers. All I had was like female teachers. So I'm used to them coddling and sitting down and trying to talk everything over. And then I had